This is a very, very simple test to do, probably takes 10 or 15 minutes for a client to do. It identifies 41 life events that cause stress. And the idea is that any change in the rhythm of an ordinary life causes stress, even if it's a good change. For instance, a promotion, moving to a bigger house, having a big celebration for a big birthday. All of those things represent some kind of change. And of course, the negative changes are weighted much more strongly. But the idea is that the client just goes through 41 life events, all external, like the death of a spouse, like a marriage, like a divorce, like whether you got a ticket violation, whether you went away on vacation, a collection of life events, and they're all weighted. And the idea is that you add the points up, and anybody who gets over 300 points is under a huge amount of stress. And the research has shown that 90% of those people who are over 300 points get sick or have their function deteriorate in the next 2 years. And I think that's really valuable information for the advisor to know. Number one, because they learn a lot about what's going on in their client's life very quickly, in 15 minutes, and things that they would never think to ask about. And number two, if they can really see that somebody is under stress, then they're not psychologists, I completely understand that, but they can at least try to address, ways in which, at least financially, some of that stress can be diminished. I think one of the strongest tools that advisors have in their toolbox is perspective, because let's go back to the person who lost $500,000. They're overwhelmed and feeling helpless. And the advisor has a perspective of, yes, this happened, I know you're feeling terrible, but I know given your portfolio, I know in 6 months, in a year, we'll be in a very, very different place. And that's what a client pays you for that ability to hold a person's hand in trust and guide them into the future. And people, when they're really confused and upset, cannot see the future. So you have to be their eyes for it. The definition of too involved is when you are talking to your client about things that have nothing to do with money. If somebody wants to buy some new appliances for their house or redo their kitchen, that involves money. It may be very detailed, but it involves money. If you're talking about what their relationship is like to their spouse, and you start listening to complaints, particularly, this is not a good situation to get into. That is too much involvement and, as they say, too much information. Probably the biggest sign to me is when they don't call back when things are bad. That avoidance speaks very loudly to upset people. And if there's one word of advice I would give to financial advisors is, when things are bad, make sure to call more, not less. When there's a very detached feeling in the interaction, when the advisor sticks only to the numbers and knows nothing about the family, so they don't know how many cats and dogs the family has or whether the grandparents live closely. Those are all very important kind of just basic information that I think an advisor needs to know in order to fully understand their client. If I weren't a psychologist, I'd love to be a financial advisor, because I think it's so important that people have their money handled well. And I think if you, as a financial advisor, can build a trusting relationship with clients so that they stay with you a long time, they recommend you to friends, and you maintain a stability for their life and guide them financially, I think that's just must be a very satisfying thing to be able to do.